Shanti. May there be peace, peace, peace.
Om Shanti.
May there be joy, joy, joy.
Joy.
May us dance, 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 and fill the world with Shanti, peace. Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti. Sing with me. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. May there be peace, peace, peace. May there be joy, joy, joy. And we can dance, 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 and fill the world with Shanti, peace. Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti. Om Shanti, Om Shanti. Om Shanti,
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Om Shanti. May there be peace, peace, peace.
May there be peace.
May there be joy, joy, joy. And we can dance, 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 and fill the world with Shanti, peace. Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti. May there be peace, peace, peace. May there be joy, joy, joy. And we can dance, 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 and fill the world with Shanti, peace. Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti. Welcome to Satsang. So beautiful to join you all here from these sacred, beautiful, flowing waters of Mother Ganga that are just cleaner and cleaner every day as we are inside and still, and Mother Earth is healing more and more every day. Such a joy to connect with you, to be with you in your homes, in your apartments, in your rooms, wherever you are during these days of staying home, and to have this opportunity to connect through the beautiful technology of these cameras and these wires that allow us to experience that which has always been there, which is that connection of the heart, that connection of the self, that oneness. What an extraordinary irony that in a way, that which is technology has actually helped us recognize and experience and live and embody that which is of spirit, of soul, of heart, of truth, which is our oneness and our connection. So thank you to the beautiful gift of the technology that
allows us to come together in the truth of who we are, in oneness, in that presence of truth. As always, we'll start with one of the questions that came in advance. And it says, my trigger to anger is usually physical exhaustion. On days when I'm very tired or I didn't sleep well the night before, I start getting angry over small things. How do I stop? So, there's a couple of different things at play here. On the one hand, on a very physical level, sleep is greatly important for the workings of the physical body, but also for the workings of what most of us identify as our emotional state, our psychological state, our mind. Because that which is taking place in the physical brain, the chemistry, the electricity, is that which we experience as emotional states, as feeling states, as our inner psychology. And we know, for example, that being awake all night, I forget the actual statistics, but it's something like being awake all night is the equivalent of basically being drunk. And I forget how many drinks it is, but literally, lack of sleep impairs us cognitively, intellectually, emotionally, the same way that drugs and alcohol do. So in the same way that if someone were really drunk and they did something really stupid or they acted in a way that later they really regretted, they would say, oh, well, I was just really drunk or I was on drugs. Meaning the chemistry of my brain was messed up. And then people would say, oh, yeah, you were just drunk or on drugs. But lack of sleep actually impairs our brain functioning in the same way. And so the first very logistic, physical piece here is not sleeping impairs us. It impairs our immunity. It impairs our digestive system. It impairs all of the systems of the body, including the workings of the brain. And so we do things that are stupid. We're cognitively impaired. We make bad decisions that we later regret. We lose ourselves in anger. We lose ourselves sometime in tears. I remember when I was a very, very young child, from the time I was just a little kid, if I ever would get upset, my mom knew, oh, it's time to take a nap. Just that simple thing, young child, crying or having a temper tantrum. Must be you're tired, have a nap. So that which sometimes feels very deeply emotional, anger, pain, frustration, in many cases is attributable to something as simple as having been awake all night the night before, or not having slept properly for many days. So do whatever you need to do to make sure that you get a good night's sleep. That's first. But second is the awareness that there's a lot of different pieces that contribute to us being anchored and grounded. And it's not just sleep. Because there's also lots of beautiful times when we stay awake all night in prayer, in meditation. And far from being emotional wrecks the next day, we're inspired and uplifted and exuberant. So it's not as simple as hours of sleep. It has to do literally with the charge of our batteries. If your mobile phone is running low, you get staticky. Suddenly you can't hear properly. Suddenly a lot of the apps aren't functioning very well. Things shut down. You go on low power mode. Lots of things no longer work. And the same thing is true with us. As our internal battery weakens, and it weakens not just due to sleep, it weakens due to whether we're meditating, whether we're doing our yoga, whether we are living in truth or in lies, whether we're living from a place of ego or a place of being connected to God in truth. Things that deplete our batteries are a constant excessive focus outside on gotta get this, gotta achieve this, gotta have that. Running after unfulfilled expectations. And therefore the frustration, the anger, the pain that comes from not having them fulfilled. Not being anchored in our meditation. Not moving through the world from our heart. Not living in alignment with our Dharma. These are all the sorts of things that deplete our batteries, as well as physical things, of course. Lack of sleep, junk food, pollution. All of that stuff impacts us. And so this is where, when you lose yourself in anger, what it means is something very simple. Your batteries are low. And sure, some piece of that may be lack of sleep, but I would bet that there are other pieces as well in there. And so the solution becomes get proper sleep. But there's also lots of people in the world who lose their temper on 8 hours of sleep a night. So it's not as simple of a solution as just the sleep. Stay anchored, stay grounded, stay plugged in. Think literally of a mobile phone in the charger. It's got to be connected. It's got to be plugged in. Stay connected. Stay plugged in to that divine source within you, through prayer, through service, through love. Recognize that you are a vehicle and a vessel for God's will to flow. In love, in service, in truth. And the more you live as that, even if sometimes there are nights without much sleep, you'll be charged by something other than just sleep. You'll be charged by an energy that keeps saints and sages and yogis deeply peaceful, awake, enlightened, charged, even staying awake all night. So do both of those together and keep your batteries as charged as you can on the physical level, on the emotional level, and on the deeply spiritual level. Something attract us to that thing. There is a power, what's being called these days the law of attraction, the power of attraction. It's not as simple an equation as thinking about something brings it. Here we are in May. I could sit here on the banks of Ganga, sweating, thinking about snow all I want. And it's a pretty good chance that no matter how hard I think about snow, I'm not going to open my eyes and be surrounded by it. However, it's going to change my internal experience. So I certainly have the power, through thinking about snow, to change my internal experience of the physical heat. And so when we talk about the power of attraction, it's not just about attracting things from the outside to me, but it's the power to really create my world and my experience, much of which has to do with the inside. And yeah, sometimes it also attracts the outside for sure. That's especially true with regard to things like peace and joy and love and abundance. If I'm moving through the world in love, chances are I'm going to attract love. If I'm moving through the world in peace, I'm going to attract peace. It's like that beautiful story that I love of the old man who's sitting at this path in the between villages in the jungle. There's a young boy sitting at his feet, and a man walks by and he says to the old man, "How's the village up ahead? How are the people there?" And the old man says, "Well, where are you coming from? How are the people there?" And the old man says, "Oh God, they are the worst. They are liars and cheats and thieves. I'm so glad to be leaving them." And the old man says, "Oh, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but the people in the village up ahead are just the same." So the traveler, of course, is naturally dejected, but he keeps walking. What's he going to do? A little while later, another man walks by, and he also says to the old man, "So how's the village up ahead? What are the people like there?" And the old man says, "Well, where are you coming from? What was it like?" And the man says, "Oh, I was leaving the most beautiful people. They were so full of love, so generous, so kind, so caring, so compassionate." The old man says, "Well, good news. That's exactly what the people in the village up ahead are like." And when he left, the little boy says to the old man, "But how is that possible, Dadaji? There's only one village up ahead, and you told the first guy the villagers are liars and cheats and thieves. You told the second guy they're beautiful people." And the old man says, "Because it depends on what they see. The first one saw thievery and cheating, negativity. The second one saw love and positivity. So in that way, yes, we attract what we think about. But it's not as simple as a magic wand over the material universe. Me sitting here meditating on money does not mean I'm going to open my eyes and there's going to be a mound of dollars and rupees and euros in front of me. And that somehow if that mound isn't there, it means that there's a failure in my meditation or a failure in the power of my thought. The ancient teachings that say you create your reality of abundance, you create your reality of prosperity, they weren't talking just about mounds of bills. They were talking about an internal experience of abundance and prosperity. And yes, if in me my cup runneth over, that's what I'm going to live through. My bank account may not have very much in it at all. doesn't mean that suddenly people in the world are going to start transferring large sums of money into my bank account. But one of the things that I learned in India at the very beginning and has stuck with me since is the people in this country, especially the people living in really traditional, what you could consider spiritual India, are so full. And I remember when I got here, talking to people who, in my Western concepts, they had nothing. They were living so far below the Western standards of poverty. And yet, their felt sense experience was abundance. If you so much as suggested that they were poor, they would say, "Nahi, nahi, nahi, hum bilkul gareeb nahi hai, wo gareeb hai. Hum gareeb nahi hai. We are not poor. That guy over there, he's poor, but we're not poor. Hamare paas bahut hai. We have a lot." And so many people in the world that I had come from who had what seemed like everything were living in an experience of lack. And so for all practical purposes are poor. And so that's the deeper teaching about this law of attraction, is it's not about if I meditate on prosperity, bills are going to somehow fall out of the sky upon me, or my bank account is going to increase exponentially while I sleep. Right? Every once in a while I get one of those spam emails that says something like, "Make money while you sleep." That's not the prosperity, the abundance, the miracles, the manifestation that the spiritual teachings are referring to. It's an inner experience in your world of abundance. Because when you want to share, you're rich. When you want to grab, you're poor. So it's not about what you have. It's about the openness of your heart. So yes, thinking about how abundant I am absolutely draws abundance to me. That abundance may or may not come in the form of bills, but you will live in an experience of abundance if your mental framework becomes one of gratitude, of knowing that your cup runneth over, rather than one of lack and yearning. And if you think about love and peace and joy, not as in something you want to get, but as in the state you are in now. Thank you, God, for my joy. I am an embodiment of, a transmitter of peace and joy. I am love. Yeah, it's going to bring that to you. Possibly from people in the outer world, but certainly in the inner world. And the truth of a spiritual life is, your world is much more made up of that which takes place on the inside than the outside. And so the changing of the world that we need is a changing of the inner. And then, yeah, as we always say, Jaise bhitar vaise bahar. As is the inside, so is the outside. So align your thoughts, not with what you don't have, but with what you do have. And know that it is so. Know that it has always been so. And give thanks to God for opening your eyes to the truth that it is so. Karma and the law of karma is dependent upon two different things. The action itself, the karma itself, but also the intention. So if I say to you, a man took a knife and stabbed it in someone else's heart, is he going to get good karma or bad karma? So most people are going to say, well, bad karma, that's murder. But if I told you that the man was a doctor, a surgeon, a heart surgeon, and that the person in whose chest he stuck a knife was someone who had just had a heart attack, and through operating on him, he saved the guy's life, well, then obviously it's good karma. So it's not so much the act exclusively or the act in a vacuum. It's the intention with the act. And in the same way, children or anyone being forced against their will with absolutely no power to the contrary to do something that they don't want to do isn't going to acquire bitter karmic fruits if there's no intention to harm. If I reach out to help you, or I reach out to give you, let's say that I've got, a glass of water, you're coughing, and I reach out to give you a glass of water, and accidentally, as I reach out to give it, I stumble and I fall. And in stumbling and falling, I land on you, and I kind of hurt your leg as I stumble and fall on you. Well, I'm not going to get bitter karmic fruit for that which happened by accident during doing something that was actually trying to help you. So in the same way, children who don't have any control, any power, whose hearts are good, pure, whose minds are pure, they're not going to acquire the negative karma. But tragically, children are very, very, very suggestible. And the vast majority of that which makes up our subconscious, meaning our autopilot, that which makes us a lot of who we are, our personality, our habits, a lot of that gets determined in early childhood. And so even though the children are not going to get negative karmic fruits from something that they did against their will, against what they wanted to do, the vast majority of children who are raised in violence, in crime, in pain, especially being forced to commit violence and crime and pain, grow up into conscious adults who continue to inflict pain and violence. And then they do get the fruits of that. So this is where working with children is so important. Working with children who have been traumatized is so important. Working with children in difficult situations is so important. Is to pull them out of those situations and actually be able to allow them to heal and to grow into the healthy, whole, positive, peaceful, connected, loving beings that they can be, both for the benefit of their own karmic package, as well as for the benefit of their own awakening, of course, as well as for the benefit of society. This is where all of the programs for children are essential, so that we stop chains of violence, stop chains of abuse, stop chains of crime, and really take children in those vulnerable years and give them a brand new start. And it can be done. And the younger they are, the easier it is. Have a beautiful next few days, a beautiful rest of the weekend, and we'll see you again on Tuesday night. Again, our satsang schedule now is Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. That's our lockdown on the banks of Mother Ganga satsang schedule. So we'll see you again on Tuesday evening. Have a beautiful, healthy, safe, staying at home, connected, grounded, filled with love next few days. With love to you all from the banks of Mother Ganga.